Hi there, Serdar Yegalov here for InfoWorld at IDG. In today's episode of Smart Python, we'll have part 3 of our ongoing series on making a simple social networking application in Python. Now, when we last left off with this project, we had a data backend for our project using SQLite and a simple web frontend to view a number of social media posts preloaded into our system. But we had no way to log in as a particular user and no way to make new posts. So in this installment, we're going to address the first of those issues, and we'll make use of some of the modules in Python's standard library to do this. Right now, our data model doesn't have any way to track which users log into the system. In fact, we don't even have a password field for our user accounts. So let's create that first. We can use a freeform text field for passwords, although we will want to ensure at some point along the way that we enforce some standards for password length and complexity, but that can come later. Next, we're going to create the table that we use to track logins. The way we do this is through an object called a token. This is a random hex string that is associated on the back end with a particular user account. We use the secrets module in Python to generate our hex string for each token. We also have an expires field, which we use to track the lifetime of the token. And by default, the token expires 7 days after it's created, which will force the user to log in again. Now we need to create some methods on the user object to support how all of this works. First, we're going to create the user password management methods. See, when we create a user account in our test data, we set a password to go with it. But we don't do that by just saving the password in the database as plaintext, because that's an invitation to disaster. What we do instead is take the supplied password and one-way hash it. We transform it cryptographically using a key that is kept secret and unique to our site. Python standard library has the hashlib module for creating cryptographic hashes, and hashlib has the scrypt method specifically for hashing passwords securely. So we will use that to create one-way hashes for our passwords in our database. Note that one of the things that we need to provide to scrypt is what's called a salt. This is another randomly generated string, which we keep secret on our end and is unique to our setup. So for this project, I'm going to create a settings module to store this variable site key. Note that in production, we're probably not going to keep our salt in our actual code tree. We're probably going to store it as an environment variable so that it isn't exposed if our code tree happens to leak out. But for now, we can do this. Next, we need to create user methods to handle tokens. One to generate new tokens for a particular user account, and another to look up a token and get the user account associated with it. You'll notice here that in this method, getUserFromToken, we have a check for the token's expiration date. There's probably a more elegant way to do this in the future other than checking every single time we look up a token, but right now this does not impose a whole lot of overhead, so we'll stick with it. By the way, before we go any further, I'm going to update our data creation script with some code to set passwords for each user. For many of the users, I'm going to just insert a stock password. Again, not something you want to do in production, it's just something we're doing here to demonstrate how it works. But for a few of the key users, I'll include a custom password, which we will then use to log in with. Now we need to create a front end for all of this. We're going to add a new route to our site, login, and we're going to modify the existing page we have that displays our posts to behave a little bit differently when someone is logged in. We're also going to create a new template that we use for the login page. It's just a simple HTML form with a username and password fields and a submit button. We should also touch up the existing template that we have, again, the list of posts, to welcome us when a user is logged in. As you notice here, the login route is broken into two parts. One we get when we visit the login page, and the other when we submit our login form. And you'll notice that we can do this based on the HTTP method that is used for the route. The default for routes is get, so this login route method doesn't need to specify which method is used. That's the default. But login route post will only use the post method, so anything that is posted from that page will go to this route. So when we visit the post method, we gather the username and password fields from this form that's submitted to it, and then we attempt to look them up in the database. And again, we're not looking up the password as is. We're hashing it first. So we look up the hash for the password, not the password itself. This way, no passwords are ever stored as is in plaintext in our database. If we do find a login, then we create a token. and we send the token data back to the user in the form of a cookie, and then finally bounce the user back to the home page. If any step of that fails, we just give the user an error message and have them resubmit the form. Also note that when we created the cookie itself has an expiration date. It's the same one as our token, so that way the cookie should just expire along with it. In the main route, we now use the getUserFromToken method to look for a token in the cookies in the user's request, and if we find a match, then we take the appropriately returned user object and then use that in our greeting message. Now let's open a web browser along with the inspector tools and go to our site. As you can see, we now have a login prompt on the main page. If we click that and supply some valid credentials, we're sent back to the main page, except that we now have a personalized greeting. And as you can see in the inspector, we have a cookie with our login token. This token, once again, is totally randomly generated. It bears no personal information whatsoever. Now there's still plenty here that's missing. We still don't have a way to interact with other users. We still have no way to post new messages. We don't even have a way to log back out yet. And there's a number of other things that may in time come back to haunt us. For instance, the token table. That might in time become cluttered with expired tokens that never get cleared out. Can you guess why? Go back over everything that I've showed you, and you may get a hint. I'll reveal the answer to that, along with some of the new features we have to add, in the next episode. That's it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the IDG Tech Talk channel on YouTube. And for more Dev with Serdar, be sure to follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Infoworld.com.